I tend to be an optimistic person, but these days I'm finding it almost impossible to feel any hope. I try to feel hope. I want to feel hope in my heart and mind, but it just isn't there anymore. That was the message that was left by a friend on my voicemail earlier this week. I tend to be an optimistic person, but I'm finding it almost impossible to feel any hope. Anybody relate to that, at least in a little bit? Yeah, okay. So what does it mean to be an optimistic person? And is that the same thing as feeling hopeful? In our April 10th blog, the Reverend Cameron Trimble noted, "We use the word hope in many ways. We hope things improve. We hope leaders make better decisions." Yeah, right. We hope the systems we depend on stabilize. We hope we will be okay. Most of the time, hope is tied to an outcome we can imagine. It carries a picture of the future we want and a belief that somehow we or someone else will get us there. Reverend Trimble says that kind of hope is fragile. It rises and falls with the news cycle. It depends on conditions we do not control. When those conditions deteriorate, our hope begins to thin, and it becomes harder and harder to sustain. But could there be another way to think about hope? One that avoids being tied to an outcome. One that possibly could be easier for us to sustain. Don Horan, writing in the National Catholic Reporter, reminds us that hope is not the same thing as optimism. Optimism is more of a feeling. Optimism tends to lead people to brush past the present and fixate on the future when things will inevitably be better. Optimism tells us things will be okay, things will work out, so don't worry, it will take care of itself. But hope is different. Hope anchors us squarely in the realities of this present moment and causes us to do something. Hope is not a feeling. Hope is a choice, an action. Bruce Marshall, in his book, Taking Pictures of God, writes, "Optimism is an attitude of expectation that a particular result will occur, that a person will recover from an illness, that we will achieve a special goal, that the publisher's clearinghouse will pick my number, mine, from among the billions that were submitted." The dictionary defines optimism as an inclination to anticipate the best possible outcome. Hope? Well, hope is less specific. Hope is actually an attitude that looks for possibility in whatever life deals us. Hope does not anticipate a particular outcome, but keeps before us the possibility that something useful will come from this. Bruce Marshall continues, "We're often told that an optimistic outlook is a good thing, but I've rarely found it so. Optimism often leads to disappointment. When the best possible outcome doesn't occur, we are let down, might even feel betrayed. Optimism may then become its opposite, pessimism, which is an inclination to anticipate the worst possible outcome. Hope, it's more resilient. It's more enduring, and it's more helpful. In a serious illness, for example, there are often setbacks. In the face of these, optimism might wear down, but hope encourages us to move forward despite the setbacks. Optimism may lead us to expectations that are unrealistic and ultimately hurtful. Hope advises us to look squarely at the realities that confront us while remaining aware of the possibilities. As Václav Havel once said, hope is a state of mind, an orientation of the heart. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. Marian Marquesian Ramon Pereira has a different understanding of hope, one that I find particularly relevant for the times that we're living through. She suggests that hope is found by where we place our awareness. This past October, Marian Marquesian Ramon Pereira wrote in Sojourners magazine, these are her words, "Working at a peace-building organization during times of war, genocide, and political upheaval is a strange kind of calling. At the Telos Group, where I serve as Director of Marketing and Communication, our mission is to equip communities to be peacemakers, working across lines of difference to help all people live in safety, freedom, and dignity. Ultimately, my job is to pay attention, to not look away, even when I desperately want to. I track bombings, read the stories of displaced families, and watch footage I can't unsee. And then somehow, I try to help others care too." She continues, "Most days, it feels like we're screaming into the void. Recently, I'd been feeling burned out. In one of those moments of despair, my coworker Ryan said something that broke through the noise. We have to lead with hope. That line cracked something open in me. We have to lead with hope. I realized hope doesn't have to be grand or sweeping. It could be as small as noticing the leaves on a tree, or relishing the bright laughter of a baby. Hope is the levity that makes the hard work possible." How might hope appear for you? Hope doesn't search us out and plant itself inside us. Despite Emily Dickinson's famous admonition that hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all, I don't believe that hope sings constantly or even consistently. At least it doesn't in my life. Hope is a learned attribute. We learn hope by looking for those places where hope hides, not where we think it should be, but where it actually is. We learn hope because we choose to see something not as we wish it to be, but as it actually is. Here's a perfect example of that. Dr. Richard Selzer, a cancer surgeon, tells this true story, which I've shared before. He writes, "I stand by the bed where a young woman lies, her face post-operative, her mouth twisted in palsy, clownish. A tiny twig of the facial nerve, the one to the muscles of her mouth, has been severed. She will be thus from now on. To remove the tumor in her cheek, I had to cut that little nerve. Her young husband is in the room. He stands on the opposite side of the bed, and together they seem to dwell in the evening lamplight, isolated from me, private. Who are they? I ask myself, he and this wry mouth I have made. The young woman speaks. Will my mouth always be like this? She asks. Yes, I say, it will. It is because the nerve was cut. She nods and is silent. But the young man smiles. I like it, he says. It's kind of cute. He bends to kiss her crooked mouth, and I, so close, I can see how he twists his own lips to accommodate to hers, to show her that their kiss still works. In her blog, Philosophy Without Tears, writer Amy Lask writes, I continually reframe hope as a verb instead of a noun. Thinking of hope as a thing, a possession even, makes it feel just weird. It makes me afraid of never finding it, of no one giving me any, and of the possibility of losing it. Hope feels a little more attainable and sustainable to me as a verb. I don't have hope, I do hope. I don't find or keep hope, I just hope. I hope like I brush my teeth, do laundry, or answer emails. It's something I do, but more importantly, something I choose to do. Hope is hard work, she writes. It's messy, tiring, and doesn't provide any guarantee that you'll end up where you want to be. It requires redos and second chances, timeouts, and recharges. Amy Lease continues, there are so many ways to practice hope as a verb. If you are reaching out to your community, even in a small way, you hope. If you're reading to your child and talking to them like they're an intelligent being, you hope. If you're growing your own vegetables or sewing your own clothes, you hope. If you are supporting a local artist or business, you hope. If you are a researcher or you are working on a problem, you hope. If you teach or heal, you hope. If you are slapping on a mask to go get groceries, you hope. If you spend your time creating and sharing, you hope. If you call a friend, wash the dishes, or notice a flower, you hope. If you got out of bed this morning, you hope. Give yourselves a round of applause. Something may come from these acts, however tiny, and that something might just be wonderful. There's no guarantee, but there is possibility. That's hope. Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.